Hello Outriders, it is Ebontis here, and in this video I'm going to cover all the tips and tricks and little nuances of information I've gathered from playing the demo, going through all the coverage that they've released up until the launch of the game here on April 1st, and pretty much everything I know before the game actually goes live, so here we go. One of the first things to note is after you make your first character and you want to skip the prologue, you actually can. So that's the nice thing, is when you make a secondary character after your first one, you're able to skip the prologue and just jump into the character class selection screen. In Outriders, there are 4 classes that you're going to be able to pick from. First, you've got the Devastator. This is going to be your close range tank, and they're going to be based around like earth and gravity powers. You've got your Trickster, which is also going to be close range, but more of an assassin, kind of hit and run, in and out. They're going to deal with space-time and energy weapons. You're going to have your Pyromancer, kind of your mage. They're going to deal with casting fire, going to work from a middle range. And then you've got your Technomancer. They're going to be your longest range. They're going to specialize in sniper, bonuses. They're going to be your support class. They're actually the only class that can do a general heal to everybody. And they're also going to work with gadgets. They're only one of the few people who can actually mess with technology. You'll realize that's kind of a big deal in the game once you play through the story. FYI, I'm also not going to be covering much on the story. Basically, it's a sci-fi thing. Earth went to hell. About 500,000 people on a couple ships flew 80, years into the universe. You landed. You were the Outriders. You were the first one to get there. The planet did not treat you well. Basically, the anomaly, crazy storm happened. You were in cryosleep for about 30 years. Things got much worse, and that's where you start. So that's the quick summation. Now, each class also has its own healing style and melee effect. Now, I'll show you how the melees work here in just a little while, but the healing styles are unique for each class. So the Devastator will recover health from slain enemies that are too close. Basically, they have to be within close range. I'll cover what that is a little bit later. But any enemy you kill up close is what's going to heal you. And usually get about 24% or 20 to 24% on some of these classes per enemy killed. So if you kill 4 up close, that's almost all your health. Trickster, each enemy killed in close range heals you and grants you a portion of shield. So both the Devastator and Trickster are close range classes, kind of up in the fight, not really using much cover at all. I know some people worried about the cover in the system, or cover system in this game. Both the Trickster and Devastator, you're not going to be in cover hardly much at all. So if that's what you might want to lean towards, you like the assassin or you like the tank, these two are for you. The difference is the Devastator is probably going to have more armor. The Trickster has that ability to make shields. That's what kind of sets it apart. And of course, it's kind of in and out nature. The Pyromancer, as I said, is going to be your kind of fire mage class, and you're going to recover health when an enemy marked by your skills is killed. Now, any skill that you use that damages an enemy is going to mark them, and it's going to have this little icon, skull icon with a little plus on it. If that enemy dies by you or anybody else, then you're going to get that chunk of health back. Same thing, I think all 3 of these are anywhere in the mid-20s for % of health you get returned, and that's the main way all of those heal, is being in the right place or marking the enemies for this one. When enemies die, that's when you get health. Now, the Technomancer is probably the most unique of these 3. They don't have any specific kill in certain way to get health back. Basically, they live on a life leeching system. So you will recover a portion of the damage you deal across everything that you do as health. So if you fire a sniper bullet, you get a portion of that back as health. And if one of your skills explodes, you get some of that back as health. So any damage that you do is going to be turned into health to you. So leaning into leeching skills and stuff like that is going to serve this class very well. So each class is going to have a skill tree that looks like this. You've got your main node to clarify your skill tree. As you can see, it's close range, tank, stand your ground. It's also going to tell you how the melee skill works. Each character's melee is going to be different. So for the Devastator, you're going to have a melee that will cause bleed damage to the enemies that it affects. You also can see the couple stats below. Every close range kill heals me by 24% of my max health. I also receive 15% max health just for being a Devastator, and I increased my armor by 30% again for just being a Devastator. So as I said, this is going to be the tankiest class, but there are survival trees for each character depending on how you want to play that character. Now, each skill tree is going to lean into one of 3 main things. You're going to have one that leans into survivability. Hence, the first node here you can see is health. You're going to have one that leads into weapon damage. literally weapon damage plus 8%. And you're going to have one that leads into your skill damage or cooldowns, basically using your skills into the best of your abilities. And you can see this one is anomaly power, which is kind of like your skill power. And if you go deeper and deeper into each one of these trees, you're going to see some things. Increase seismic skills, which seismic is a type of skill for, say, the Devastator. Increase their damage by 50%. So it is going to be beneficial for you to get to the end of these skill trees, but each character, no matter however high you get, the max you're ever going to have is 20 skill points. If I go all the way down this tree and pick most of the things I need to get down here, I might have about 5 left that I can use to, branch off or pick a few other options. But the main thing, your main benefit is going to be making sure you get to the end of one of these skill trees. Now, the nice thing is, say I've used all my skill trees and I picked everything all the way through. Maybe I got a new weapon or piece of armor that I want to change in my playstyle. Any character, at any point in time, can reset your skill tree and spend those points again. However you want to mix them up, however many times you want to reset, you're able to do so. So you can reset your skill tree for free, unlimited times, no matter what, so you can play around with any build style you want to, mix and match armor, mods, weapons, and that stuff I'll cover later. But the idea you have that much freedom to reset your skill tree anytime you want to, it's kind of great. As for abilities, each class is going to have 8 abilities. Now you can see you can only have 3 slotted in at each time. So you're going to have to definitely, as I said, lean into whatever your playstyle is going to be. Are you going to be a bit tankier? Well, the Golem makes me, reduces 65% of incoming damage for 12 seconds. Basically, it gives me like stone skin. Now, it has a 26-second cooldown, which you can see down here in the bottom. But you're going to be able to get mods, and there may be nodes on that skill tree that can lower that cooldown so you can use that more frequently. Also, you'll find mods on armor later on that could potentially allow me to cast Golem a second time before the cooldown actually begins. So mods are going to be a huge thing. I'll cover that a little bit later. But the nice thing is, no matter what you're doing, you can move these things around, switch slots, change out whatever skill you're using. You're able to really pick your playstyle as much as you want to. And there's 4 more abilities that I even haven't seen yet, just because the full release of the game is not out yet. But again, 8 different abilities. And they're going to fall into different categories. So you can see here, I've got a kinetic skill with the Gravity Leap. Here, Earthquake is going to be a seismic skill. Reflect Bullets is going to be a protection skill. And Gravity Leap is going to be a kinetic skill. So if I come down here to the class tree node, this is going to increase seismic skill damage by 50%. So that's how you come back to your skills, and you can see that's going to be Earthquake is going to be seismic, and that's one of those that's going to get damage increased by 50% if I activate that tree node later on in leveling up. Now you'll also notice, say Earthquake and Gravity Leap both also show Interrupt. Certain skills for each class are going to be able to interrupt bosses, high-level characters, monsters, whichever ones have larger abilities. Some are just going to do basic attacks, like normal enemies that fire guns, little monsters that just kind of jump and claw at you. Those are going to be basic abilities. But bigger enemies are going to have abilities that they charge up. And you're going to see their name bar basically slowly fill with this large orange bar. And I'll show you guys that a little later in the combat section of this. But what you're going to want to do is have one of these abilities that you can actually use when that enemy is trying to cast that ability, that you can actually damage them with that ability and you'll interrupt that skill. Now, another thing about that is you can actually have that skill kind of be resisted. They can build up a resistance to your skills. And at that point, you've got to basically survive through the ability if they get to that state. But your idea is, depending on how frequent you use them or however you play those abilities, the interrupt is a crucial thing. So you'll notice Earthquake has it. Reflect Bullets, it's a protection one. That one does not. Golem, also protection, doesn't have that either. So, and you'll notice Gravity Leap is kinetic, but it also has interrupt. So different types can be interrupts. You're just going to have to look through each character class and just pay attention to these little words. They're going to explain which each of those are going to do. So that covers the basics about the classes. I will definitely say as you play through, as you can skip the prologue and really just pick another class. If you're playing one, honestly, every class is going to unlock drastically once you start getting into armor mods and deeper into the skill tree nodes and get weapons that play to your playstyle. So I would give some of the classes a little bit of time, but if you really don't love one, The classes definitely play differently. As I said, the Devastator and the Trickster are more up close in your face. Devastator's a bit more tanky, Trickster's a bit more assassin, in and out, more dodging. And then the Pyromancer, it's kind of your mage, your fire class mid-range, and as just the Technomancer, that's going to be your far range, gadgets, and kind of a support class. So if you feel like you fall into one of those categories, that may help you pick your class to start off with. But honestly, they're all a bunch of fun, and they play differently, and the way the abilities work and the way the armor mods can affect those abilities, you're really going to be able to have a lot of fun with any class, just give it a little time. So for the basics of classes, that's kind of it. Let's go into a few things about gameplay. And one of the first things when it comes to gameplay is your world tier. Now, if you go to your menu here, you're going to notice your world tier goes from 1 all the way up to 15. 15 is going to be the hardest, 1 is going to be the easiest. 1, for example, says the enemies are always going to be -2 for a level. The items also will drop 2 items below you. And the loot rarity modifier is only 80%. Legendary drop rate modifier bonus is only plus 0%. Now, legendaries may have a chance to drop at any level. I'm sure it's just very, very, very low, because it is in general. But at this level, you're not going to be getting a lot of legendaries versus what I'll show you as we bump up. For the demo, they capped us out at World Tier 5. So you'll notice the enemies were 2 levels above us. My character got up to level 7. I was fighting enemies that were level 9. But I was also able to get gear that was dropped at level 9. So I was able to get gear dropped at +2. The loot rarity modifier is 140%. And the legendary drop rate modifier got a bonus of +25%. Now, if the chance for a legendary to drop is like 1 in, 5,000 guys, and that goes up by 25%, still not going to go up a ton. If it's like, a little bit more, it's not a bunch. So keep that in mind. When you go up to higher tiers, take like World Tier 9, for example. Enemies are now 6 levels above you, but they can drop gear that is 6 levels above you as well. Also at this World Tier, it allows you to wear gear that is 6, levels above you. And you'll notice the loot rarity modifier, which is probably just like, how frequent higher rarity things drop. That's plus 225%. And the legendary drop modifier bonus is plus 125%. When it comes to the in-game and the high-level stuff, World Tier 15 is plus 12 for enemies, item drop rate, and wearable levels. Loot rarity modifier is 500%, so you're going to be seeing some high-level stuff. And you're also seeing the legendary drop rate modifier is plus 300%. Now, again, it's still probably small, but you'll be seeing them more frequently, and as we go through and I explain crafting, you'll know why you'll probably see more than one legendary and why you almost might want some duplicates. It'll make sense a bit later. But the big thing to know is you can go all the way up to World Tier 15, challenge the crap out of yourself and go crazy. You can also come down here to World Tier 1, experience the story, and if that's where you find, the right difficulty for you, or I don't know if this is really a game for kids, but if somebody younger does get a hold of this and maybe their game skill is still leveling up, this may be a way for them to experience the game. Now, the nice thing about the World Tier system, there's an auto World Tier system. Let me explain. So you'll notice it says Auto Set Maximum World Tier. Toggle the automatic selection of the highest unlocked World Tier. Now you can turn it off, and then you can just pick World Tier, say level 3. That's like normal difficulty, everything matches your level, pretty straightforward stuff. If you leave it there and you leave it on off, it's never going to go above World Tier 3. So if you just want to play normal difficulty the whole way through, turn this off, set it to 3, and you are good to go. Now what the auto World Tier is going to do is as you level up and get experience at a World Tier, what that is going to do is give you experience into unlocking the next World Tier. And if you survive long enough or get enough experience without, dying too frequently. If you die a lot, it actually can knock you down a World Tier, because potentially maybe you're a little in over your head. But if you're staying alive long enough or killing a bunch of enemies and getting enough experience by doing things within the game and you bump up a World Tier, it's automatically going to send you to that next level. Now, this is where the game may find a good difficulty for you. If you feel like you're struggling, though, you can always lower it down. And if you feel like you do want that challenge, you can always put it to the highest level that you've got unlocked. That's up to you. As for if you die a lot and you lose one of those World Tiers, you might have to earn that back, but I haven't fully tested that one yet. But the auto World Tier on is probably how it's going to come to default, so if things do tend to get a little harder, make note that you can change the World Tier, set this to off, and then it won't change, and nothing will get increasingly difficult as you improve. It's nice to have something that kind of dynamically changes with you. And that, remember, keep in mind, the higher the world tier, the better the loot. So it will benefit you to play at higher world tiers, but if that's not really anything you're as concerned about, you just want to play through and experience the story and get through the game and see what it has to offer, you could start there. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, since I'm in the menu, I may as well also cover auto loot. Now, auto loot is a pretty great thing, and I hope something like Destiny will pick this up very soon. You guys know I play Destiny, so this would be a great feature. What it's going to do is you're going to choose the level of gear that you automatically can either pick up by hitting a button, or that will pick up when you leave, a combat arena or a mission or whatever. So you can pick the level. Common is going to be white, unusual is going to be green, rare is blue, epic is purple, and then legendary is the big crazy yellow ones. Now, the nice thing is, when you start out, most things that you pick up, you're going to be able to sell those to vendors, and I'll cover that a bit later. So you might want to pick up everything you can get your hands on, go back to vendors frequently, sell stuff, and try and build up your, your resources for crafting and money and that type of stuff. But later on, say you're towards the end game, you're like, I don't want to see anything at all unless it's epic, which is probably a point you're going to get to. Well, turn this thing up to epic. I don't know whether it's a drop on the ground in an arena with a ton of guys, and you have 20 different pieces of loot on the ground, or you get to the end of a mission and a whole bunch of loot drops from a chest, and the only thing you care about is epic. Turn this to epic. You will never see anything that's picked up by your character, goes to your stash. No new gear is going to come to you unless it's epic or above. So that's kind of a nice quality of life. All those blues and greens and stuff that you're seeing, that you're like, yeah, I've kind of got all my crafting stuff and all that unlocked, which will make sense in a minute. For now, I just want to see the big stuff. Crank this up here and leave it. So my advice when you start, pick up a lot of things, sell it, and I'll cover that at the vendors. But later on, just don't forget this is here. And also, when you go under controls, there's an auto loot button. And I got to find it to show you guys. All I have to do is hit H. Say I'm done with an area and I'm about to go into the next zone, but I'm like, there's a lot of stuff in here. Hit H and it'll pick it up. Now, the nice thing about auto loot, say there's an enemy halfway across the map that's like the last one that was killed that dropped the key to a door. Instead of running over there to that enemy, all you got to do is hit H, and you're going to be able to pick that key up as well halfway across the map, and that way you don't have to run back and forth. So don't forget about auto loot. It is kind of amazing. As for graphics, one thing for display you'll want to make note, motion blur. This is a toggle on basically every platform. A lot of people had issues with it being on by default. It is now off, and it will be available to be switched on or off in the full game, basically on every platform. So if you don't like the motion blur, come in here and switch it off. Now, as for the basic world, there's a couple pieces that I'm going to show you guys. In each side quest, mission, roaming through the just general area zone, there's going to be chests that you find, but they're usually going to be some that are off the beaten path. So the way this mission works is I'm going to be running up here, and I'm supposed to get to the solar tower. So your obvious thing is to come up here. This is a little ammo restock, and I can run through. Now, two things. One, I need to go assault this bunker. Well, where's my GPS node going to tell me? All you have to do is hit your little thing that, deals with this, and what I can do is I can hit tab, and that's going to guide me exactly where I need to go. And I can follow this little white line, and it's going to take me wherever my quest tells me to go. The little tracking line is kind of beautiful. But before I go too far, the other thing I want to show you is those random chests that could be around, and one other thing in the world. So I came up here, and the obvious thing is to run into the building. But if I turn to my left, run over through this little mud pit, through the grass over here, there's a chest. These are going to be all over the place. Now, the developers haven't said specifically if we are going to be able to get legendaries from chests. Some people were kind of abusing this when it came to the demo. So I think they're probably going to decide maybe if it's certain world tiers that allow these to have a small chance to drop or something. They're going to have to test and see. I haven't heard, and obviously there's no testing in the full game yet. But as you're leveling up and looking for different gear, especially at decent world tiers, you could still potentially get purples from here. So for a very long time, it's going to benefit you to open most of these, and probably for most of the campaign, you'll usually get a couple pieces of gear from them. Now, I'm going to show you guys one more thing that's usually almost always in this area. As you're running around in the world, there's probably one other thing to note, and they're little mining nodes. So I'll show you guys where one of these almost always is, and right here it is. Now, they may look different, but from what I've seen, most of the mining nodes look like this. They're going to be somewhere on a wall. They look like this little gray sparkly stone, and when you come up to them, you're going to be able to harvest them. Now, what this is going to do is going to drop a couple of resources. It's kind of random what it can drop, but the nice thing about this is some of the resources you have to break down items to get the resources. Well, if you find some of this out in the world, you might get lucky and find some good stuff. So don't forget, as you go look for some of these random hidden chests, again, this one is not on the obvious paths either, you might get some gear that's worth you picking up. And remember when I said auto loot has no range? I'm going to come all the way up here to right here. And you guys can see it down there. I'm going to hit my auto loot button. And there it is. So there's no range to auto loot. It's pretty great. Now the next thing we're going to talk about is multiplayer. Now, multiplayer is going to be a great thing for this game because crossplay is going to be live for basically every platform that this launches on, and I think Stadia is going to come a little bit later. But you've got PC is going to be both Epic Store and Steam. Xbox is going to be Xbox One, probably Xbox One X if you've got one. I just don't think they sell those anymore. Xbox Series S and Xbox Series X. For PlayStation, you've got PS4, PS4 Pro, and PS5. All of those platforms can play together. And then I guess when Stadia comes out, you'll be able to do the same thing. So if I'm on PC, my friend's on PlayStation, another one's on Xbox, we can all party up and we can play together. Now, the way you're going to be able to work with crossplay, you'll go to your play with friends or matchmaking. There's a matchmaking thing in the tower. I'll show you guys that. Tower, that's too much Destiny. The main, like, central city hub, I'll show you guys where the matchmaking is at. It's going to look similar to this. Now, if I have friends playing Outriders that are on Steam, that I've got, you know, on my friends list already, they're going to show up right here. Same thing on Xbox, same thing as PlayStation. But if you want to play crossplay and you want somebody from a different platform to join your game, you can do one of two things. If you're going to be the host, you can generate the game code and you can tell your friends 55T324E3. That's not going to do you guys any good to try and type that in because that game probably won't exist later on. And again, if you're playing with those people, all they have to do is come down here, type that code in, and they can join your party from any platform. They just have to be, you know, connected to the internet. Kind of an important thing. Now, they have mentioned that they're going to work on cross-play friends lists. So if you have friends on other platforms, maybe, they're going to have a Square Enix account logged in. But you potentially will be able to pair up with people and be able to have a friends list for people in even crossplay, which is going to be really cool. I'm waiting to see that implemented. The game is not out as of recording this video. It comes out in like 2 days on April 1st. So just stay tuned how that one looks. And if there's a lot of detail to the matchmaking, I'll make a separate video once the game goes live. Now, as you're playing through in a multiplayer match, you'll see up in the top left it says Payback, Assault the Bunker, and that's how I can hit tab and I can, you know, follow the little GPS dot. Well, the other thing that's going to show up there is basically your communication between your party. You can pair up with random people. You may not have, you know, a group with them. You may not be talking on Discord or wherever you may be chatting in party chat. You may not be talking with them, but there's a little prompts that will appear up there. Hey, do you want to travel to this location? Hey, do you want to start this quest? So watch that area right underneath the radar for all those prompts. They're going to pop up. And everybody basically has to agree to move forward. If 3 people are in a party and you're watching a cutscene, everybody has to opt into skipped. So if you want to experience the game by yourself, you can choose to go into your matchmaking and you can actually change your privacy settings. So let me return to the lobby and I'll show you what I mean. So if I want to go through the campaign, watch every cutscene, experience everything, I have the choice to do that. You'll notice in the bottom down here, it's going to say game privacy. Open means if you're playing and somebody goes to join a random team up here in the top, some random person could fall into your game and now they're playing with you. It's up to you. If you want help, cool. If not, no big deal. I could, you know, at level 7, I could join a level 1 and probably help them. But on the other side, you know, you may want to experience things on your own. You can go friends only. So if you have friends, they can join and you're like, cool, if I got a friend on, they can join up. If you just want to go through and have control over your game, go to game privacy closed. No big deal. Now, one thing some people worry about with crossplay is cheaters. Well, I can tell you, the developers have been able to spot a lot of the main cheaters who have used either trainers or game cheats and things like that. And what they're going to be doing is 2 things. One, they're going to put them in their own matchmaking lobbies. So cheaters are going to play with cheaters. So if you open your game, you're likely only to get somebody who's been playing the game normally. They could be at a very high level and smoke some of the content that you're on, but they're likely not to be running around with like 4 million health and 12 gazillion damage like by cheating the game. So The other thing to note is if you see content, pictures, screenshots, videos out there, if anyone's cheated, they're going to be known because the developer is actually going to basically tag your UI with something that makes it obvious that you're cheating. I don't know exactly what they're going to do. I'm still very curious to see it. I'd love it if it was like your pants were on fire, if it was just this big giant watermark across your screen. Basically, if you are cheating and that's how you want to experience the game, it's a PvE game. You're not going to break anything. But if you're going to, like, you know, flaunt things, or you're going to jump into other people, they don't want you messing with other people's games. And if you're saying, hey, I have, you know, the best build in the game, and you're cheating, well, then it's going to be obvious how you got there. So I wouldn't worry too much about, you know, cheaters coming in. But if you want to control your game experience, remember, watch your game privacy. Turn that to closed to start, and then you can open up to friends as you choose. All right, so far we covered classes and gameplay basics and matchmaking, stuff like that. Now let's talk a little bit about combat. Now, obviously, it's a third-person shooter. There's cover that you're going to be able to use if you prefer to. So that stuff's going to be there. But the main pieces that I want to explain are some of the stuff that may not be quite as obvious. So abilities, as you can see, have two ways that they can function. They can just be a single press to activate. So you activate the ability, it's going to do what it's going to do. That's my paint launcher. The other option is some of them are going to have the ability to hold them, and then you're going to have a little more control. So say, for example, my shrapnel bomb. If I press and hold for about, you know, for half a second or so, and then let go, I can figure out where I want to aim this thing. And that's usually kind of what you're doing, whether it be a turret, a bomb, stuff like that. Certain characters have things that you can aim, and now I can figure out where I want to put that thing exactly, and it's just going to hang out right there. So some abilities are going to be just instant activate. So now my bullet has toxic bullets. Some are going to be ones that you place, have a little bit more, you know, tactical location to them. So keep that in mind. And not all abilities work this way, only some, but test out. And once I have more on every character's ability, I'll do a deep dive there. So I previously had talked about certain abilities having an interrupt option. So what I'm going to do is go show you guys in a boss fight what that looks like. At least I'm going to try to. Sometimes their casts are fairly quick. But remember, anytime, and I'll try and pause the video a little bit so you guys can see this, but anytime the boss is actually casting an ability, you're going to be able to see this orange bar start to fill up. When that's full, that's obviously when it gets cast. But if you can hit them with one of the interrupt skills on any of the classes, you can stop that ability. But also after a little while, they will build up a resistance to that interrupt, and you have to wait for that resistance cooldown to go all the way down to be able to interrupt them again. So let's head to the boss, and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. Now, if I do that 2 times in a row, that one you can see the little blue pulse next to it right now. Until that actually goes away, I can't actually affect his abilities. So now I gotta watch those little cycles on the ground. Now, the little blue has gone away, so if I had an ability up, I should be able to interrupt him. So keep that in mind. Some are interruptible, some are not. It could be a little trial and error depending on the boss and how things go. But that being said, it's nice to see that he has a boss bar now. Gonna line up that pretty well. Pain launcher is gonna work. And you can see that didn't actually interrupt him, but I can definitely do some damage to him. Here we go. There's 3 shots on him. And you can see once again in the top left of his, like right next to his name, the little recycle looking icon looks like it's basically flashing blue. It means he would resist that effect if I hit him again. And that's just me nuking a boss. But that's so you guys can understand the interrupt abilities and also the interrupt resist that can be built up if you hit him with the same ability over and over and over. At some point, it just isn't as effective, so hopefully that clears that up. Now, while we're also talking about combat, there are also some debuffs that you can get. If you get on fire, how do you get off fire? Stop, drop, and roll. Literally rolling will stop your burning. If you're bleeding, you're actually supposed to stand still and not move. If you get like decay or toxic as a debuff on you, what you actually need to do is get some healing done. Whether it's kill an enemy up close for a Devastator, or for my character, get some leech. Biggest thing is certain characters have the ability to get direct healing. That's the Pyromancer killing marked enemies, the Trickster and the Devastator killing up close. But if you are toxic, and I'm sitting here as a character who's got like toxic abilities, but I only do life leech, I may not be able to get the toxic off me. I may have to just honestly survive through it. The final one is crowd control, basically freezing, ash, which is immobilization by like fire. Those are going to be crowd control effects. The way you break out of those is literally to punch your way out of those. So your melee button, you're going to want to just hit that and punch away. Just like that. So if you are at a point, you can, if you're stuck, punch. That's the big thing. Now, when it comes to combat, as I mentioned, each character class has a unique melee. The Trickster is going to be a freeze. You can see my hand is frozen. The Pyromancer is going to cause burn damage in that small kind of cone in front of you. The Devastator is going to cause bleed damage, and the Trickster is going to cause slow, and maybe some energy damage as well. Now, the melees work in two different fashions. If I'm standing or basically walking slow, it's a small melee right in front of me. If I'm running, it's actually going to be an area of effect slam that's going to do that same effect that each class has to a little bigger radius. So if you run up on a group of enemies and they're all together, I can run up, slam quite a few enemies, and then go to town. So using your melee, depending on how powerful or how high your anomaly power is, which helps your melee do more damage, will definitely be a thing to remember in combat. Don't forget about that, and especially the run sprint, definitely something that will be very useful. Now, these are little ammo crates. These little things on the ground, it's just going to say hold whatever your key is to restock. That's just going to restock all of your ammo. They tend to be all over the place, and you'll notice it was actually in the boss arena. Now, I didn't use it, but if it gets to, say, World Tier 15, and these, you know, enemies have crazy amounts of health, and you are pumping through all the damage you think you can get a hold of, and you're, like, out of ammo, look for a restock crate, or try and at least know where they are in whatever combat arena that you're in, because potentially you're going to need to reload ammo. Maybe it's, you know, 3 people in a game, and FYI, the game does scale depending on the number of people in the game, so a solo person is only going to have to do X number of damage. 3 people, probably going to have to do about 3 times the damage, so keep that in mind. Things are going to be a bit spongier with a group, but also there's 3 of you doing damage. But that being said, if you're trying to focus on one guy and he seems harder to kill, that's why. And again, if you need ammo, look for these little restock things. They're going to be all over the place. Now, another thing to make note of is your abilities basically refresh between every zone that you go into. So if I throw a shrapnel bomb out here, I put blighted rounds on, I use my pain launcher, everything's on cooldown right now. But if I go into a different zone, or say I'm going to zone travel, this is only ever going to be up if everything's empty in arena. I go up here and then I back right back out. Every one of my abilities is reset. So anytime you go between arenas, combat arenas, and some people joke like, hey, there's a lot of loading zones. Well, every one of those loading zones, depending on your console, they may not be as painful. If you're on a console with an old spinny hard drive, maybe a little slower. I get that. But it also means you can use your abilities as much as feasibly possible, and there's no reason to hold on to them for like the boss room, because when you go into a boss room, they're going to be reset anyway. So pretty much use your abilities as frequent as you get them up. Hence why, you know, lowering cooldowns and having multiple charges is going to be beneficial, because you're going to want to use them all the time. They're meant to be on small cooldowns in this game. They're not like, hey, I'm going to use my super every 5 minutes. It's not a thing. Your abilities are going to be up all the time. So just use them frequently, because they come back every zone. All right, so I got some combat basics out of the way, but what are you going to use for combat? All of your gear. Now, the gear in inventory is a bit of a deep dive, so let's jump in. First off, you've got your inventory screen itself. Now, the inventory screen is going to have basically each little node is going to be nested. You're going to have your primary and secondary abilities. They've got their set of inventory slots. There's 30 of those. You've got your sidearms. You've got 15 of those. And each one of your gear slots is going to have its section of 15 slots as well. So you've got a decent amount of gear that you can hold. You've also got a stash that your gear will, you know, overflow to. And that's usually available at social spaces. I don't know if you can access it while you're out in the world, being as in the demo we don't have access to it yet. If that changes, you know, I'll let you guys know in the future. But for now, just remember, you may get a new weapon, you're like, where'd it go? Could be just, you know, in your sidearms or something like that, because it didn't go to your primary section. Now, gear is going to be on a standard kind of RPG basis. You've got white, which is basically trash, but it's common. You've got green, which is going to be unusual. That will have no mods on it. It's just going to be your basic green gear that you'll find. Maybe it helps level you up, but it's not going to be doing anything fun. Then you're going to go to blue. That's going to be rare. Now, that's going to have one mod on it, whether it's weapon or armor. Then you're going to have purple, which is epic. Epic is going to have 2 slots on it, but they're going to be a little less special than these. These are legendary, and these also have 2 slots, but you'll notice the tier of the mods. So if I go to a blue piece of gear, you'll notice the mod has a Roman numeral 1. That's going to be weakening bullets. Now, that's a tier 1 mod. If I go over here to this weapon, it is a tier 2 mod called Brain Eater, and a tier 3 mod called Killing Spree. The tier 3 mods only drop on legendary gear, whether it be legendary armor that are in like armor sets, or these legendary weapons that are going to be just randomly earned throughout the game. Tier 3s only come from those. Tier 2 will only drop on epic gear, so the purple stuff. Now, purple would have 2 slots like this, but maybe it's got a, 2 tier 2s or a tier 2 and a tier 1, but a purple piece of gear will never have a tier 3 mod. So keep that in mind. Legendaries eventually are going to be what you want. Now, the cool thing is, once you get enough gear, you could have a legendary weapon and piece of armor in every single slot, so you're just legendaried out, and that's probably when you're going to be in kind of god tier mode, depending on what level you're at. So, as you go through, the armor will slowly get more and more progressive, and that's why the higher loot tiers are going to be beneficial. Having those legendaries drop at 300% more frequent, still not going to be that often, but those are going to be what you're going to use to build your in-game builds. Those are the important ones. Now, as you're leveling up, you're going to be getting gear all over the place. So say I've currently got this light machine gun. Well, I got another light machine gun to drop. Which one's better? Well, down here in the bottom, there's this thing called compare. If you switch it on and leave it there, anytime I mouse over a weapon, if I've got this one selected, like secondary weapon, primary weapon, they're the same type, but it's just my secondary one, and I mouse over this, I can literally put them right next to each other. So I can see the assault rifle has higher rounds per minute, higher damage per bullet, reload is 1.5 seconds, and the crit multiplier is 125%. So all of those are green, so they're going to be better than the light machine gun, but you'll notice the clip size is 40 on the assault rifle, and it's also 100 on the light machine gun, so that's a substantial difference. The firepower on the light machine gun is actually 1 up, so you'll see that down red arrow. And you're also going to notice the stats on the bottom. Accuracy of 86%, that one favors the assault rifle. Stability, the light machine gun somehow on this one is actually higher, and the range on the light machine gun is going to be beneficial, leaning that direction as well. Now, you can also have 2 assault rifles that look almost identical. Take these 2, for example. Your only differences, it's higher firepower, so the damage per bullet's going to be a little bit higher. Don't worry about the armor piercing, I'll get to that stat here in a little bit. But as it's a standard variant of an assault rifle, the clip size, the RPM, the reload, the crit multiplier, the accuracy, stability, and range, it's the same type of weapon. So that's not going to vary. But the damage, the mods, that type of stuff, that's where the changes will occur. So the compare is nice, but if you don't want it on, you can always just switch it off and just look at the main thing that you're focused on. Now, when it comes to armor, your stats actually matter. So let's explain the stats, and then I'll show you guys what I mean. Firepower is going to be what damage your weapon is capable of doing. So currently, my firepower is 378, which is my base weapon damage of 347. You can also see it says plus 31. If I come over here, you'll see one of my pieces of gear has firepower right here. Bonus firepower of plus 31. Now, basically that assumes when I equip a weapon, and same thing happens here. This weapon of 310 now has plus 31 firepower, so my weapon damage bonus is 10% there. This one's 8.9% bonus here, just because this one's a little stronger. But the reason I say stats matter is because if I go into each one of my pieces of gear and I select something that has bonus firepower on it, and then we go look at my total now, this weapon that started at 347 is now up here doing 518 basically firepower. It's the equivalent of a weapon 518 damage. So now my weapon damage bonus is 49%. Say I go up into my class skill tree and I reset that one and I want to go into higher weapon damage. There's 8% higher. There's other stuff you can do. But I go back to my inventory. Once that skill goes into effect, it actually didn't go up. But you can actually see the firepower is 545. It just hasn't actually quite registered. There it is. So now I'm 57% more damage between the armor that I'm wearing and then the skill tree nodes that I've got. So that's why when I say you can go heavy into a build style by picking what you want to focus on. Same thing. My health is a whopping 138. That's not a lot. Now, I'm at a low level. I can do a decent chunk of damage. As I put out a decent amount of damage as a Technomancer, I'm leeching life all the time. But if I'm in a tough spot, I'm going to come over here and find things that have max health. I'm going to equip all of those. And then I'm going to be in a better position to fight things that might be a little higher than me. Maybe I don't want to feel like I get one shot if something's doing a lot of damage to me. So now I can take my health, and I'm up to 336 from 138. I'm not quite 3x, but I'm, you know, basically 250% higher health than I was before. Now, am I going to do as much damage? No. Is anything, like, special about my character right now? No. But my survivability is definitely going to be higher. Now, as you level up your character, currently, like in the demo, we maxed out at level 7. When you level up, you're going to get a base anomaly power that comes with your level, and I'm also going to get a base health that comes with my level. Armor is completely based on the gear that you're wearing. So if I was somehow able to, like, as you can see, equip that, armor goes down, equip that, armor goes up. It just worked out. I was actually magically at, like, 1,000 exactly. But for the time being, let's just see if I can get back to where I was. 1,000 even. So my physical damage reduction at 1,000 armor at level 7, probably fighting the enemies in the world tier I'm at, it's going to be 51% damage reduction. Now, the other piece is anomaly power. So this is firepower. It's all based around what your weapon can do for damage, and any bonuses that you have will go into effect. So notice I have health now, but now my firepower is still up that 8% from the skill tree. So it's the skills and the armor stats that are really going to combine. Anomaly power is going to be your skills. So how much damage your skills do, how long your status effect damage is, all of that type of stuff. So if I go full anomaly, so right now my anomaly power is 188. Take one of my skills like shrapnel. The explosion deals 146 damage. Interrupt is always going to be there. Okay, cool. 146 damage. Remember that number. So now if I go into armor and I equip everything with anomaly power, that's as high as I can find. 48's decent. 42's not bad. 48. I got some decent stuff on this guy. And 48. So now my anomaly power is 416. It's 121% bonus to skill damage. Now I'm going to go into my class. I'm going to reset this. And I'm going to come down here and also increase my anomaly power and my resistance piercing. I'll talk about that in a second. So now my anomaly power bonus didn't quite update. It's up to 441. Remember the shrapnel bomb did 146 damage? Now that shrapnel bomb does 414 damage. It's a lot. Now it's not exactly matching that one, but it's close. But your skill damage is going to be directly linked to your, your anomaly power. Now some mods are going to just straight up increase the damage of an ability. So I don't know specifically. Some of that's going to be there. Some of them are going to reduce the cooldown. So your mods are going to be a huge effect on what you're capable of doing. But the way they affect your stats, the way your build is going to play out, all of that's going to come together. So if you want to see your stats in like a general picture, down in this bottom left corner on PC, it's shift. I can see literally my basic stats. Wearable item level is 9 because it's my world tier that I'm in. Firepower is 347. Crit chance, I've got 5%. Critical hit damage, it's 37.8%, so it's going to increase a little bit based on something. Close range weapon damage. So certain weapons, like this one for example, might increase the close range damage 7%. So it's of my benefit to be close range to enemies with this weapon. And close range, by default, certain classes have certain nodes that can change this, but by default, close range is within 10 meters of you. Long range weapon. Probably find this on an epic sniper somewhere, I'm sure. Anything that is farther than 18 meters is considered long range. There are certain class nodes on certain, skill trees that are going to benefit you for killing enemies at, say, long range. So paying attention to that range is an important piece. Armor piercing. Currently, I got squat for that. Now, anomaly power. We boosted pretty high here. Status power. Now, what status power is, and that's one of those things for armor over here, like how it says anomaly power, you can also have some that have status power. So status power is going to either increase the damage of burning, toxic, or bleeding effects, or it's going to increase the duration of freezing, ash, vulnerability, and weakness. So say I have my character, and I have something called a cryo turret. I can freeze enemies in place. Yeah, it's cryo turret. I can freeze enemies in place. Well, if my status power is higher, what I'm going to be able to do is have them freezed for much longer. So I'm going to be able to have much more control of the battlefield. That may be an important thing for, say, a solo player, as opposed to somebody who's in a group who's like, I don't need to worry too much about, controlling the entire battlefield. So then I would much rather have higher skill damage bonus or just higher anomaly power in general, so I can do more damage as opposed to have more control of what's going on. Now, there's also certain things you may want to have more bleed damage. So if you do bleed to something, you want that to just like cause everything like, a Devastator. They do bleed with their melee. Well, if I, punch somebody and go have to take care of somebody else, if my status power is crazy high, that bleed damage is going to be even more effective. So status power is another one of those things to keep in mind. Global cooldown reduction, that's just lowering the cooldown of all of your abilities. Resistance piercing, the percentage of enemy resistance that is ignored when dealing ability damage. So if an enemy is resistant to a certain type of damage, or they have a certain amount of armor, or whatever it may be, my, say, shrapnel bomb is going to be 15% more effective against them if my resistance piercing is currently where it's at. If my resistance piercing goes higher, and you're fighting a bunch of armor enemies, that's actually potentially going to benefit you more than, say, anomaly power. So there's certain, like, when you get to the higher end, you may have resistance piercing 50%. Your anomaly power may be 100 lower, but if you're doing like 50% more effective damage, resistance piercing is probably going to be a thing at the end game. Armor, physical damage reduction, we know. Resistance is going to be to anomaly attacks and status damage. So bleeding, fire, and all lightning, like the guy that you guys saw me fight. All of that is where your resistance is going to come into play. Finally, we come down here to health. You've got health regeneration. There are some armor mods. There are some skill nodes that are going to give you just health every second. Health healing received bonus. Now, this is very specific and something to make note of. The bonus healing added to direct heals does not affect leech and regeneration. So the Technomancer, I leech health by doing damage. The other three classes, say a Devastator punches a guy in the face and he kills him up close. Well, if my healing received bonus is higher, I'm going to get more healing from him. So if normally I get 24%, and this is like 20%, well, I might get 26.4%. So again, adding on your healing received bonus, that may be good for a tank player, so they get more bonuses back. Weapon life leech and skill leaf, those are just standard for my character. Again, the percentage of health regained by dealing weapon damage, and then skill life leech, the percent of health regained by dealing anomaly damage. Includes status damage. So again, skill life leech could be a high thing. If you can cause the entire arena to bleed for some reason, then your skill life leech is sapping health from that bleeding effect, and you're basically healing yourself over time like you do have health regeneration, but it's because your status effects are healing you. So don't forget about skill, life leech, and status effects do combine together. Alright, so that kind of covers a lot about stats, gear, and kind of how all that can be affected. Now to dive into kind of inventory, loot, and gear specifically. First thing is to know if you have a new piece of loot on you. You'll notice both my pants and my boots have this little yellow arrow in the corner. So if I click on the boots, you'll see that this green pair right above my cursor is the new piece of gear that I got. And the boots that I got right above this set are also brand new that I just picked up. So the yellow little icon in the corner of your loot is going to show you what's new. And then the little gray icon is going to show you what you have selected. So if you know I'm here, this is the one I've got selected. So if you want to know which one you're going to switch, if I click this, I'm going to switch this one out. If I don't want to switch it with this one, just make sure you have that selected. Now, in your inventory, you're going to have a lot of things to manage, so let me cover those for you guys. First, down here in the bottom left is going to be resources. Scrap is used to buy gear, weapons, and armor from vendors. So it's basically your currency, it's your money, and it is only used for vendors. Now, as you're leveling up, it's going to be beneficial for you to sell everything to a vendor. I can break these two items down right here. And granted, I can get some resources from them, and we'll explain those in a second. But early on, greens, probably not going to be worth you breaking down. It's going to benefit you to sell those to build up your scraps first. So Greens and whites, you're going to want to hold on to those as you're leveling up and sell those to the vendors as frequently as possible to make sure you're getting your scrap and building up that money supply. Because the vendors, I'll show you guys a little bit later, actually have some benefits to them and sometimes are worth checking out. Now, the other 3 resources are going to be crafting related. So you've got leather, which comes from breaking down armor. You've got iron, which you saw comes from breaking down weapons. And you've got titanium, which is going to come from either tough enemies. You can also find it out in the world in mining nodes. And you can also get it from disassembling epic or legendary items. So if I choose to break one of these down, which I really don't want to do, but if I do choose to break that down for some strange reason, I'm actually going to get 2 titanium from that. Now, I don't want to do that, so let me switch that back. But again, titanium, valuable crafting resource, leather and iron, basic crafting resource. Now, below that, you're going to see something called shards. Shards are used to raise the tier of a stat on any piece of gear, whether it be weapons or armor, up. Now, you'll notice there are certain types of them. I've got bonus firepower. I've got 241 of those. Armor piercing, I've got 204. Crit damage, 106. So, again, there's a bunch of different types, and there's some that I don't have yet, because certain ones with status power, which I know is a thing, I've seen none of those. So, eventually there's probably going to be more of these shards that we don't even have in the demo. So, what that's going to do is, say I come over here, and my anomaly power is 42. So, currently anomaly power, I've got 158 shards. I have no idea how much it's going to cost because we can't get into crafting. That's going to be a whole video. So if you guys are watching this and want to know more about crafting, that's probably one of the first videos I'm going to put out for you guys. First or second one, so stay tuned for that one. If you're new to the channel, make sure you guys hit subscribe and turn that alert bell on, because crafting is going to be probably one of the most important things in this game. So stay tuned. That's going to be a good video. But anomaly power, say this is tier 1. There's 6 tiers. I don't know what it's going to cost. But if I want to bump up the anomaly power on this piece of gear, then I could sit here and maybe it's 42, then 44, 46. I have no idea the levels and the tiers and how much it's going to change. And the higher your gear, or the higher level your piece of gear, probably the bigger the numbers are going to go. But the idea is you can take anomaly power and bump it up, or max health. Or I can come over here, potentially on a legendary, it's going to be expensive as hell, but I can bump the crit damage, or I can bump the status power. All of those are little stats in those white boxes are all things that you're going to be able to level up from shards. Now, I don't know if legendaries specifically can be updated or not. We'll have to see. But pretty much everything else, like weapon life leech here, if I want to bump that one up and it's 11.9%, well, I'm going to be able to bump that up to whatever the max I can get it to. So your shards are going to be a very important thing, and the only way to get shards is by breaking things down. And when you break it down, you'll know what you're going to get. So, 1, you can do a mass dismantle. You can mark anything for dismantle, and then if you come over here, you'll see everything that you're going to get. So I'm going to get 273 iron. I'm going to get 45 life leech shards, 27 crit damage shards, and 9 armor piercing shards. So, for 1, you can mass mark, which is really nice for quality of life. And then 2, whatever you go to break down, you're going to see what you're going to get from it. So you can see if, like, is it worth me to break it down or is it worth it to sell it? Now, let's talk about mods. Now, I told you guys there's tier 1 mods, tier 2 mods, and tier 3 mods. The tier 1 mods you're going to find on rare. Tier 2 mods you're going to find on epics and some legendaries. And then tier 3 mods are only going to come on legendaries. That being said, crafting is a huge thing in this game. And basically the way it works is, take this gun for example. Let me find one specific that I haven't done this to. So take this one for example. Ricochet. Shots ricochet to another enemy within 5-meter radius of the initial target. So if I have a lot of enemies up close and the first shot hits an enemy and bounces off to another one, that's a pretty good chunk of group damage that I'm going to be able to do. So I want to break that down, and I want to make sure I can put that into another weapon because I have a good place for that. So if I choose to dismantle this weapon, you'll never get mods if you sell them. Remember, selling things only gets you scrap. That is all. So you're going to be dismantling a lot of things. But if you break this weapon down and come down here, you'll notice that mod shows that exact mod. Shows the resources, but it also shows the mod. So as you can see, weapon life leech where it says 12.8%, underneath that it shows nothing. But if I come down here to this weapon, life leech of 11.9%, right underneath that you're going to see that little 2x2 little kind of grid square next to anomaly surge. What that means is I've already, and this is on a character basis, I have unlocked that mod for crafting. So if I go to break this down, I'm not going to get that mod again because you only have to unlock it one time. So at this point, now I'm going to get 61 armor and 18 life leech shards by breaking both of these down. I only get the one mod because I've never got it before. This one, I've already got the mod, so I'm just going to get the materials from it. So that's your quick way to know by looking through your inventory. I've already got Killer Medic. I've already got Shield Maiden. Weakening Bullets I've already got. Toxic Bullets I've already got. Clip Combustion. I've played like 60 hours in the demo, so believe me, I've put a lot of time into this. So I've got a lot of these mods already unlocked. I think this is my character with almost probably the most time. But you'll notice up here, Killing Spree and Brain Eater, I don't have those two mods yet. And you're like, why the hell would you ever break down a legendary? Well, here's exactly why if you haven't seen my video before. Take Killing Spree. Killing shots increase damage by 30% for this weapon for 30 seconds. Bonus deteriorates with time and stacks up to 3 kills. So if I get 3 kills, I'm getting 30, 60, 90% damage. Slowly ticks away over time, but if I keep killing, I can stack it up. Now, if I break down this legendary, which again, I'm kind of afraid to even show you guys this, or this one, for example, I'm going to unlock both. I'm going to unlock the tier 3 mod and the tier 2 mod. Now, I'm going to get 2 titanium and some shards, but now over here, if I broke down this Thunderbird, the shots bring down lightning on an enemy dealing 46 damage. Well, guess what? If I unlock that mod, whatever resources it takes, it's probably not going to be cheap, I can change out Brain Eater to now have the Ultimate Storm Whip, and I can have 2 tier 3 mods on this legendary weapon. Now, when I slot one mod where Brain Eater is, it's going to lock the other one in. So that's why you may want 2 or 3 of these Amber Vaults to put different mods with them and see which cool combination you can come up with. So the idea of getting one legendary and kind of being stuck on it, for one, the the little stat values are probably going to be slightly different. Armor piercing, healing received, close range damage. Those could vary. I don't know if they're going to be different, stats right there, or just different percentages. You may get one slightly better than the other. But the fact that you could have an Amber Vault that currently has Killing Spree and Brain Eater, and then I can break this thing down and now make it also do lightning damage is kind of fantastic. But you have to break down the legendary to unlock it. So you're going to want more than one of basically every legendary just so you can unlock the tier 3 mod that's on each one of them. So you're going to be acquiring a whole bunch of loot, unlocking a whole lot of mods, and building yourself some fairly god tier things. Now, crafting is not completely unlocked yet, but that's kind of an idea of what you can do. But there's also other things that you're going to be able to do. I'm going to be able to say I like this Zebra Ranger T, but I want to make it an epic weapon because I like clip combustion for some reason. Okay, well, when crafting unlocks, and I said, tune in for the crafting video, it's going to be pretty deep. I can turn this into an epic weapon, unlock a mod slot. It's going to give me a couple random ones to pick from. And then now this thing is a higher tier. I've got room for another mod, and it's probably also going to bump up a few other things to it as well. So you're going to be able to bump up the rarity of an item. Say I'm also level 30 and I still have this weapon that I love. Or say this example, I haven't found an Amber Vault in 20 levels and I still have this one from level 9. I don't know how much it's going to cost, but theoretically, you could level up anything to your level. If it's got a big jump, it's probably going to be expensive. If it's legendary, it's probably going to be even more expensive. But if I have an Amber Vault here, like at level 9, and I get to level 30, towards the end of the campaign, and I want to bust this thing out, well, if I've got enough resources, I can level this thing all the way up to level 30, and I'm good to go. So you're going to be able to improve the rarity, take something from blue to purple. You cannot take something from purple to legendary. Legendary has to drop, so keep that in mind. But you're also going to be able to level up an item as well. Now, I said all of this about crafting. This is on a per character basis. So if you start with the main character that you level up, you break a whole bunch of things down, you unlock most of the mods for weapons on one certain character, use your stash to send your weapons from other characters that you play on, and say you're like, hey, I'm thinking about breaking down this, second duplicate legendary that I got on this character. Well, send it to your other character so they can break that one down, and always have them be your crafting, guru. You want to make sure, especially for weapons, armor is going to be class specific. This is only ever going, these mods for this character are only ever going to be Technomancer mods. So that's going to be a specific thing. So your Technomancers are only going to help your Technomancers. I'm never going to be able to craft Devastator armor. It's going to do me no good. But for weapons, you're going to want to make sure you have one character that breaks down your important weapons at least one time, so you have one character that unlocks all of the weapon mods. That will be important, that you have a primary character. Now, it's going to take you a while to level up multiple characters, but if you do get into that second and third character, remember, if they find other legendaries that the first character hasn't seen, use the stash, send that weapon to that main character. So if that is a legendary you're looking to like unlock the mods on, you're going to want to focus the crafting, unlocking the weapon mods on that main, so you have all of them in one place and you're not spread too thin. So keep that in mind when it comes to multiple characters. You're going to want to make sure you have kind of one main crafter. Now, there are a couple other things when it comes to gear that you should probably make note of. So I mentioned this little icon showing that I've already got this mod unlocked, but armor is going to work a little bit different. I can come over here and I have the cryo turret. It's hail shot. Increase the turret's damage based on your status power. Okay, so it does a little bit more damage. Well, if I come through here and I have a piece of gear that has the exact same mod on it, if I switch this out, it's not going to change my ability. Now, I can compare, so I can see that it's got the same, ability on it, but I can see the anomaly power is actually exactly the same, but the armor is going to be a little bit higher. So I could switch this one out. And now, if I wanted to say unlock hail shot, I totally could, but I've already got it unlocked because that little grid's there. So the red icon means whatever you're looking at in your inventory, that same mod is already equipped on your character, like your actual activated slot. As for stacking mods, you'll never be able to put two of the same mod on any piece of gear. So I can't unlock Ultimate Storm Whip and then put a second Ultimate Storm Whip where Striga's at right now, because they probably do expect that's going to break things, but also kind of boring. You can't just do like double lightning damage all the time. This one would probably get a little broken, if every kill stacked now 60% damage. That'd probably get to be a little excessive. So you will never be able to duplicate mods. Same thing with armor. Remember, when you get epic armor, purple armor, you're going to have 2 mod slots on it. And what that's going to allow you to do is have even more mods affecting your abilities, because all armor mods only affect abilities, so keep that in mind as well. But that doesn't mean multiple pieces of armor can't have the same mod on it, because more traps, shrapnel, 1 additional mine can be thrown before triggering the cooldown. Shrapnel, 1 additional mine can be thrown before triggering the cooldown. In theory, if you really wanted to, I could have shrapnel in every one of these pieces of armor, and I could probably have 4 or 5 of those bombs. Not a lot else is going to be happening with the bombs. They're pretty basic, so it doesn't really benefit you to have like 12 cooldowns of one thing, but it actually could be cool to have like, 5 shrapnel bombs that you could just pepper the battlefield with. You lean heavily into anomaly power, and those things hit like a truck. Could be a way to play. I have no idea until we get into it. I don't imagine like 5 of one thing is going to be beneficial, but an extra cooldown or 2 of something that has a long cooldown, that's where you might find some benefits. So if something has, say, a pretty lengthy cooldown, like a end game ability like a giant volcanic explosion on the Pyromancer, and you want to have 3 of those before the cooldown goes into effect, so you can, use the abilities and bounce back and forth, having 3, giant volcano explosions may be a good thing. So you can't put 2 of the same. Like, I can't put supplies. I can't, like, say this was epic and I had another slot. I can't put another supplies on this one. But I could have supplies here, here, and here, and have 4 of the bombs, high anomaly power, and then I'm just playing shrapnel bomb the whole time. So armor is going to be a thing specific to your characters. So unlocking any mods for your character is going to be just class specific. So I want to break down all of these. I would get 2 mods that I haven't unlocked so far. So I'm not going to do that at the time being. But that is why when it comes to armor, the mods are important to pay attention to. Whether it's red, saying you've already got that on your character, not much is going to change. Or if, depending on what you're affecting, is going to be duplicating it anyway. So that's why that red icon is there. That's important to know, and it's probably going to look very similar in the crafting icons to be like you can't double up. Now, when it comes to crafting, you're also going to be able to change weapon variants. So if you look at the weapon right now, I have a bolt-action sniper rifle. Let's look at this thing. Rare bolt-action rifle. And this is a standard variant. Well, there may be semi-automatic, or there may be full auto snipers that you can get later on. Maybe a little hard to control, so the recoil may be a little crazier. But on the other side, you may pump out a lot of damage. So there are going to be weapon variants that you unlock later in the game. Everything right now seems fairly standard. Like this is an assault rifle standard variation, automatic shotgun slug variation. This is a light machine gun standard variation, bolt action rifle. Trying to see if I have any other. This is a pump action shotgun. So you're going to have some standard variations, but the weapon variants are going to be something you're going to be able to mess with crafting as well. So if you like a certain auto rifle style, you might be able to switch something else, like an epic one you got, switch it over to a different play style, and it's going to work for you. Alright, so that covers everything that I've learned from the demo and previous videos and other things like that pre-game launch. After the game launches on April 1st, there may be some new information that we find, and we'll get more of that in detail. I will go full deep dive on crafting once we know more. But the final thing I want to go over is things in the city hub, the vendors, the player camp, and the truck, kind of your social space that you're going to be able to run around, and then I'll touch a little on kind of cosmetic stuff. So the first thing is you got to go through probably a quest or two to unlock some of these vendors. But in the main city or hub for each zone that you're going to have vendors. Don't sleep on the vendors. They turned it off for the demo because people were abusing it. But the demos themselves can actually sell weapons that are going to be beneficial to you. So right now she's selling this auto shotgun that is going to pierce 30% of the armor. Well, picture first things first on a sniper rifle. It's going to hit like a truck. And they go through a rotation every single hour, so it's not going to take long to see a new inventory here at this vendor. But if she's selling a purple piece of gear, and I've, been accumulating a fair amount of scrap, as you can see in the demo, I'm probably going to blow through it pretty fast in the game. Don't think I'm going to go break the game. But if there is, a decent piece of gear that's up here and I can use it for a little while, maybe I do want to buy it. Or, say, if I go over to the armor vendor, and he's selling a piece of gear that has a mod that I haven't seen before. Here's one, for example, Feedback, Tool of Destruction. Can't even use this ability in the demo. But 3% of the damage dealt using the minigun heals you after the ability ends. So if I have, say I know all of my armor, and I see here there's a new piece of gear that has a mod that I have yet to unlock, and I've got enough currency, I'm going to buy that just so I can break it down to unlock the mod. So the vendors are going to be beneficial for a little while. You can see here I've literally got something equipped and already have Hail Shot unlocked, so I don't need to buy that one. Portable Armory, I've already got it purchased, but I just don't have it equipped. Same thing over here, No Pain, No Gain. I've already got that one as well broken down, so my crafting will already have that one available. But this one right here, Feedback, I could buy this one, break it down, unlock one more piece from my crafting. So vendors, again, they're on a 1 hour rotation. And their main benefits are, for one, they're going to have purples after a while. So the epic gear is going to be something that you're probably going to be using for a good chunk of the game. So don't sleep on checking on these guys. It'll probably pop up every so often. And usually the higher level stuff, or the cool stuff, seems to be on sale. The regular basics are pretty much that. But the other piece is it's going to help you fill out your crafting mod inventory if there's anything you're missing. So don't think too hard about those. But also don't just completely skip the vendors. They could have something good. Now, when it comes to vendors, as I stated before, your greens you're going to want to sell. So like greens right now. So if I was going to sell, I can actually come down here and I should be able to get 96, 100, and 72. Now, if I sell this, I'm going to get 210. If I sell this, I'm going to get 228. This one up here at 326, I'm going to get 256. So selling blues is going to get you more money, but make sure you have the mod unlocked before you sell it for the first time. This one I could sell because I already know first things first, I've got it unlocked. But if I come up to a mod that I haven't unlocked yet, which I know one of these I don't have, Ricochet, I would want to break this one down instead of selling it because I don't have that mod. But again, you want to build up your scrap resources for a while to make sure you've always got a decent amount of money to buy. I don't know how expensive things are going to be in the full game, so sell greens and sell whites always. Don't dismantle those because they're not worth the resources, because I can break this down for like maybe like 20 iron. But getting the scrap, this is the only way to get scrap, by selling stuff. So sell as much of the green and whites as you ever come across. Blues, sell them if you don't need them, and if you've already unlocked the mod. So keep that in mind. Now, in your main social space or on your truck that you're going to be using to travel around the world, or each main zone's basically social hub, you're going to have a couple things. One's going to be a stash. Now, it's not available during the demo, but this is where overflow from gameplay would be. So if like too many things drop and your inventory is full, say on your boot slot, would be sitting here. Also, I can put weapons in here, and any character on my account will be able to access those. So as I was saying, having that main crafting guru, like main crafting character, is going to be important. If those other characters get, you know, awesome legendaries and they get a duplicate, send it to that main character so they can, you know, unlock the mods for all the fun crafting. So your stash is going to be beneficial to use. I don't know if it's going to be that big, so be a little frugal with its use, but it is one of those that is going to be available for the in-between characters. Armor between characters is going to do you no good because the mods don't help. Like, Devastator mods don't help me at all, so that's not going to matter. But weapons, yeah, that's going to help. Second thing, if you come over here, I can change my appearance. Some games only let you have a character creator. I can literally mix up hair markings. I can change whatever I want. Doesn't really matter. If I think my hair should look like that, or I wanted a darker color, bam, done. You can change your appearance basically at any time you want to, and he's going to be changed. Hard to tell with the armor on, but you can change your appearance. Next thing is going to be your fast travel banners. So this, once you've got the banners out in the world unlocked, like I've already been to this banner. Actually, I think I reset a checkpoint, so I'd have to go back here. But once you've unlocked it, you can travel where you want to. I can travel here, travel to the boss end zone, do whatever I need to do, jump around in the game. And the reason you would want to do that is because you can actually replay side quests. Now, it's more of a thing that's been beneficial in the demo, but theoretically, side quests themselves can give you loot over and over and over. So usually the chests themselves won't respawn. Those are kind of going to be a one-time thing unless you resplit the story checkpoint as well to unlock those in the first place. But if you go play the, play the quick little side quests, do what you need to do, go talk to the NPC. When you finish the side quest, you're still going to get the loot drop from that side quest, and you can repeat those over and over. So once you have these fast travel points unlocked, you can jump around wherever you want to on the map and do what you need to do. So fast travel, it's going to be a good thing. Use those fast travel banners. They're pretty much all over the place. And this is also kind of going to be your quest map. So if I come up here, I go to my inventory and I go to my quest map, I can see what quests I've got. Reunion. I've got Rift Town. I can see what quest I need to do. Reunion's the last thing I need to do, which is going to basically move me on to, the next chapter of the campaign. You can only do this first chapter in the demo, but as soon as I log in on April 1st, I'll be able to go to what's next. So I can see local quests for this area. I can see all of my quests, which are going to be probably all over the place once more of the game unlocks. And you'll be able to jump around, kind of see what you've missed, what you have and haven't done. So your quest map is going to be beneficial. The final thing I do want to touch on is cosmetics. So these are all going to come from accolades. So the accolades, as you do certain things, so you do combat accolades, like bolt action rifle kills. I need to kill 225 so far to unlock the next accolade, and all of these do certain things. Once you unlock like your progression from level 15 up to level 16, I need 10 accolades to do that, but I'm going to unlock all these things down here. So your convoy is your truck, basically, as you drive around the world, that's going to take you to places, and you can actually customize what it looks like. Now, I can't do it in the demo because we haven't unlocked the truck yet, but I'm going to have a little bit of fun when we get there. You've got banners, literally the fast travel banners. You can customize what they look like between different skins and paint jobs. And you've also got emotes that you're going to unlock. So your customization menu, right now it only has banner and emotes. The truck is probably going to be right here. You can see my banner looks pretty crazy. It started out pretty basic. Started out like that. I've got this one at this point. I've got this one. Got some goofy stuff to them. You can change the painting. Maybe I want it to look like that. Maybe I want it to be purple. And then I can change the sigil to a different icon. Maybe it's this crazy tree skull. And maybe I want it to be red. Or maybe I'm a sniper rifle. Since I've unlocked some of these guns. I got that one. I'm digging on some green. Mix it up, mix and match whatever you want. It's basically all cosmetics. Emotes for your communication. You can basically assign this to somewhere in your emote wheel, wherever you want it to go. Probably going to work the same on, all of those things. And if you go back to the hero menu, you'll be back in your skills and inventory and classes. So that is basically most of the general idea of what I've been able to gather from the demo in playstyle. Crafting is going to be a huge thing. Leaning into a certain playstyle, whether it's, high anomaly power and high health, or boosting up your weapon damage, so you're just doing weapon damage all the time and you've got a decent amount of weapon life leech. There's going to be a lot more videos coming from me on this one, but this is like the accumulation of my knowledge from the demo, from all the upcoming videos and everything else. If you go to the Outriders channel, there's a video kind of explaining what the end game is going to be if you're curious about that. Obviously, I'm going to be trying to grind there as fast as possible to explain it. But the end game is going to be separate from the campaign, so you won't be duplicating missions or maps or things to do. And that's where the real end game grind is going to happen. That's actually the story culmination, I think, is going to be at the very end of those end game expeditions. So if you really are willing to, or you enjoy the game and have fun, there's definitely going to be an end game grind to really min-max your character and go for kind of the ultimate build to finish this thing up. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a long and lengthy one, but this is one of those where I just wanted to try and give you guys as much information as I could going into the full release. Again, the game launches on April 1st. As you guys are watching this video, there is a link down below in the description so you guys can jump into the giveaway for a full copy of the game on Steam. I will basically just email you the code when the giveaway is over if you're the winner. So that'll get you guys a full copy of the game, and you'll be able to jump in on Steam. And maybe whoever wins this one, hopefully I'll get a chance to play with you guys as well if you're interested. But other than that, I'm really looking forward to this. I play a lot of Destiny. I've played a lot of different games. I played Dark Souls and Adventure. Got done playing Ori recently. This game, I think, I don't think it's going to be perfect. The story's not going to be like a Last of Us story. I think it's going to be decent. I think it's going to be kind of cool. Curious to see what this whole signal thing's all about. But I really think the combat, the mods, the abilities, and the synergy of leaning heavily into min-maxing your build and making some crazy builds is where the fun is going to happen. And then playing with multiple people and, trying to find builds that work together is going to be even more. So if there's a solo player build, if there's a good team synergy build setup that you guys can do, I'll be looking into making those videos for you guys. But look for guides, look for hidden chests, techniques, crafting, builds, weapon reviews. All that stuff is going to be coming from me on this game because I'm basically going to be covering it pretty intensely for a while. So stay tuned for a lot of coverage from me. Hopefully you guys enjoy the game. If you do pick it up, have a chance to get in that giveaway. If you are new to the channel, again, please drop a subscribe. Hit that subscribe button and hit that alert bell. You guys will know when new videos come to you. And if you do want, make sure you do turn on alerts for all videos. If you guys did enjoy the video or have a comment about anything, drop a like, leave a comment below. Always happy to say hello. You guys can also find me over on Twitter. Follow me over there if you guys want to see what my stream schedule is going to be or anything like that. And of course, you'll find me streaming on Twitch as well as YouTube, but I stream probably more predominantly on Twitch. Sometimes on YouTube, but a lot on Twitch. So thank you all very much. Hopefully you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you soon.